The snatch can be one of the most frustrating lifts. One week you love it, the next week you hate it. If you struggle with the snatch, it's probably due to your technique. In this video, I break down the snatch technique of 3 lifters from my free Discord group, which you can join at the link in the description below. All right, let's get into it. So the first lift that we're going to take a look at here is Delaney with a 110 pound or 50 kilo tempo snatch double. So let's go ahead and take a look at this and see what we've got. Okay, first one not too bad. Little bit of a hitch in that pull. Start position looked like the hips might be slightly too high. Let's see what the second one looks like. Those hips were a lot higher in that first one. Oh, and a much bigger hitch there. Okay. All right, so we got some things that we can work on here. Let's focus mostly on this second one here because that one seemed to have a little bit more of a breakdown than the first one. Alright, so we've got our start position here, which is pretty good, but these shoulders might be a little too far over the bar, so I think if we pull those hips down, shoulders will be more in line with the bar, and we'll be able to use your quads a little bit more as well. The tricky part here is when you go from a higher hip start position to dropping your hips, a lot of the time what happens is you'll just see the hips shoot up way faster in that first pull because you're going to have to take some time to practice the new keeping your hips low start in that first pull. So that's one thing I would recommend trying to do here is keep those hips a little bit lower in your start position so that you can use more quads and so that you can keep your shoulders in line with that bar, or at least a little bit closer to in line with the bar in that start position, but expect that it will be hard to maintain that position at first. Now, we've got another issue here. What I'm seeing is this hitch, which is a super common issue for a lot of people, especially when you over-focus on trying to get the bar into your hips, right? What's happening here is that you're using your arms to get the bar into your hips, because you're focusing on it almost too much, rather than letting your arms stay relaxed and trusting that your legs will get the bar into your hips if you just stand up. So let's take a look at that and see what that looks like. Right there. Did you see that elbow bend? Yeah. So we've got straight arms here, and then the moment that you're still mid-thigh, you're still pretty good, and then bang. Elbows are bent, so now you're rowing the bar into you or pulling the bar into your hip crease, which is causing your power position to be shoulders in front of, right? Shoulders in front of the bar, right? But now the bar's in your hip crease, right? We want shoulders directly on top of the bar right here. Not behind it, not in front of it, but directly on top of the bar here, as opposed to in front with elbows bent, okay? So the whole point of that tempo snatch, especially if you're doing a tempo throughout the entire pull, so you can take that time to make sure you're in the right power position before you launch it. Now, one thing that might help with that tempo snatch is to actually start going a little bit sooner, as long as you're not also pulling with your arms, right? If you're not rowing, you're good. Start thinking about starting the lift sooner rather than pull, stop, and then launch. Okay. So that would be the big thing that I would work on there. Let's take a look at somebody who does a really great job of just keeping their arms relaxed and letting the bar get to the hip crease just by the nature of standing up with the legs. Then it's going to be Luaan Atoma with this 121 kilo snatch, that's 266 pounds. Pretty substantial, a couple kilos over her own world record that she set like a week later after this, which is ridiculous. Let's see what we got. Much lower hip start position. Crazy just all around, but start position much lower, right? She's able to get a ton of leg drive with her quads to get this pull going. Now she's doing a great job getting her knees out of the way, but if you look from knee position to power position, there's no change in arm bend here, right? Now I'm not one of those people that's saying that when the arms bend the power ends, but in your case especially, by pulling that bar into your hips, you're killing your speed around the mid-thigh where it should be accelerating the most. That's one thing to keep in mind. But two is it's causing you to have a big ol' hitch and throw the bar forward away from you, which is why that bar fell forward in the catch, why you're kind of on your toes when you're catching, right? So, again, let's watch this and try and mimic this. This is it. Low hips, relaxed arms, so that your legs can launch the bar. Trust your legs to get the bar to your power position. Don't try and use your arms to get the bar into your power position. All right, now up next we've got Trev with a 79 kilo snatch PR, actually. So let's go and see what we've got. Okay, not too bad, not too bad. It's pretty solid lift, especially for a PR. Let's see if there's some things that we can fix here. Okay, just saw one. So start position looks great. Maybe a little bit too far back on the heels. Hard to tell from just this video, but that could be the case. Now, as we're pulling, if you look at the toes, you see them shift up, right? When the toes are lifting up in the pull, you're shifting your balance too far back on your heels and not keeping midfoot pressure, which is going to eliminate some of the leg drive that you're getting. Right, that would be one thing. Also, when we shift back onto the heels, almost always later on in the lift, there's going to be some sort of compensation back forward, where the whole body shifts back forward, and then you end up on the toes a little too early, right? Which we can kind of see his heels are coming up before he's fully extended his legs. So that is happening here a little bit. Not that big of a deal. It's not causing him that many problems here. I mean, super vertical extension. Looks pretty solid. That could be something that you work on, and it could be something that causes issues at heavier end weights, but not that big of a deal here. Still something to work on, though. Now, this position, we can kind of see like you're keeping your elbows low and just turning your forearm. So the moment that your forearm starts to turn over, usually we want to not really have much time at all where the arm is horizontal like this. So after extension, elbows keep moving up, but it's not moving the bar up. It's elbows are moving up because you're using them to pull you down under the bar, where these are staying kind of low and you're getting more of an around the body turnover rather than a really close turnover. That would be something I would take a look at. Now, something else, this catch looks almost like your shoulder position looks like it's almost a little too focused on externally rotating the shoulder, where you want to be a little bit more internally rotated with the bar behind the head slightly, which you've got a good bar placement. It's just that shoulder position might be rotated a little too far forward. And it kind of eliminates some of the chest and back engagement that supports the bar and forces your shoulders and arms to support it a little bit more. So let's take a look at somebody who does this really well. One of the greatest weightlifters of all time, Luaan, with a 175 kilo snatch. Super smooth. Let's review it. So start position looks pretty good. Shoulders are on top of the bar. He's got midfoot balance. He's not too far back on his heels. And as you see here, like at the knee area, he's not lifting his toes up. His feet are staying perfectly flat. And the reason that we need to do that is so that we can get more push through the ground. That first pull is a push. It's not really a pull. We don't want the hips rising too fast. And we want a lot of that to look similar to a squat, really. So you should be feeling your quads do the majority of the work in that first pull. And then this catch position. He's got some external rotation of the shoulder, but he's also got some internal rotation of the shoulder. He's just doing whatever he needs to. And you can see it kind of as he's standing up, where he kind of rolls forward a little bit to engage his chest and his back, so that he doesn't have to rely on like his arm strength to be able to support that weight. That's a small change. I think the foot position and the balance on the foot is a little bit more important to focus on. Some things that you can do to work on that would be snatch pulls. It's a really great way to do it, especially if we're doing like higher rep stuff. Think like sets of 5, where you do a pull, you come back down, mimic the same tempo that you did on the pull, and try to barely let the plates touch the ground before you go into the next one, so you can feel consistent pressure in your quads and tension in your legs, which is how the pull should be done, right? So doing those like more high rep pulls, I think, is a great strength exercise and a good way to improve your technique as well. And the last snatch that we're going to take a look at here is Maddie during her high school weightlifting season. Let's see what we've got. All right, cool. ton of power, but let's see what we can do to improve it. So first thing that I noticed is that the stance looks like it might be a little too wide. Now, I also think that you might benefit from a slightly wider stance than is normal, but this might be just a hair. So with this angle going from the heel to the knee, I think we want to try and shoot for a little bit more of a vertical shin, like this, straight up and down. You're just going to get a little bit more power output. There's not a whole lot of power with the knee to foot being at this angle, and the further away that angle is, the less power you're going to get. The more stacked you could be, the more power you can get. Not true across all situations, but in this situation it does apply. Okay, we've got a little bit of arm bend. Not too bad. It's honestly pretty solid with the arm bend. I wouldn't focus on that at all. I wouldn't worry about it. But this catch position is most certainly too wide. So the tricky part about a wider start stance is that you can't really move your feet out that much wider. You have very little room to go. So if you are going to have a wider start stance, get used to leaving the ground and putting them straight back down, or maybe slightly wider. A lot of the times it's maybe even just a change in the direction that the toes point, with just that slight difference in wider there. But with this, how wide you're landing here, we wouldn't be able to squat. So the big thing that I would want you to do is be able to catch in a much lower position, but we can't even do that until we've got a better landing position, right? So I would recommend working on not moving your feet at all, or starting with your feet slightly narrower and moving them very minimally, so that you can work on catching in a lower squat. Now, a lot of the reason that people don't catch in a lower squat is partially because of the footwork, but also just how you think about the movement. If you're thinking about the movement as trying to get the bar as high as possible, you're going to end up defaulting back to this power snatch. Something that helps a lot of people who are trying to grasp that transition from power snatch into full snatch is to think about how you would snatch if you could only get the bar to your belly button. That's as high as you can get the bar. How fast do you have to be to get under that bar, as is the case? Let's say that there is a barrier. That bar cannot go any higher than belly button height. You're going to have to focus on getting under it rather than on pulling that bar higher. And sometimes it helps to think about it like that. So I would recommend trying to think about the snatch in that way. It's not about getting the bar high, it's about getting under fast. But pull height is not an issue for you right now. Speed under is, so that should be your main focus along with your footwork. But let's go and take a look at somebody who has a similar starting stance to you and how they move their feet. And that is the great Olivia Reeves, 2024 Olympian, with this 118 kilo snatch. So as you can see, she's got a little bit of a wider start stance than a lot of other lifters, where their feet will probably be about here with their toes turned out slightly. She's a little bit wider with her stance. You could really see it here. But look at the angle that she's got. She's got feet inside of the knee or slightly on top, right? But we don't want to be the opposite direction. I've never seen anybody who's super strong, especially in the Olympic lifts, where their feet are wider than their knees. Okay, make it look like a squat, make it mimic a squat. It'll feel really strong. Right? And she moves her feet, but very minimally. It's not much wider than this. It's mostly just toes turning out slightly. So it's whatever is going to feel best for you in your catch when you do your back squats, when you do your overhead squats. What stance do you use that allows you to achieve the lowest possible depth while still maintaining some core stability and balance on the foot? That's where we want to be landing in. So from there, we need to start either in that stance or slightly narrower than that, and just practice your footwork over and over and over again. So you could do that with snatches, you could do that with empty bar work, you can do that with snatch balances, you can do that just in footwork is one of the easiest things to fix because it's just volume. You just have to do enough repetitions until it's a habit in your brain and you don't have to think about it anymore. It's one of the easiest things to fix. It's not a technique issue, it's just repetition after repetition. So that would be my main goal for you. Let's watch this lift again just because it was so great. Jeez. That was a PR. That was a couple kilos under the world record. She took this lift to force other people to have to take a world record or not go to the Olympics, and they missed that lift. And this just looks so effortless and easy. I'm predicting world records at the Olympics. from Olivia.
That's everything for this video. If you want your lifts reviewed, then make sure to join my free Discord at the link in the description below and subscribe to the channel while you're at it.